Okay, this question is probably speculation. I didn't tell you that I was going to ask you this, but you mentioned something a little bit earlier that I thought was fascinating. So a large contingent of our listeners do a kind of diet similar to what I do. So I've been in carnivore for 7.5 years. A lot of people listening, they do keto, low carb, or whatever, and find it to be really helpful. They almost always, when somebody takes a step to try a carnivore diet, whether they do it long term or even just to try it for an elimination diet, they're not eating a lot of the foods that you were talking about that have a lot of that natural pigmentation, which I
Yeah.
I believe you're right. Like I think that would really help, and maybe some people should supplement. But they are generally speaking like eliminating a lot of the crap that you mentioned, especially the seed oils. And almost always, everybody reports they have better tolerance to the sun after they've changed their diet. So do you kind of speculate that that would be like the removal side of things of like you're just not eating those nasty seed oils that are going to interact with a hot sun and cause damage on the skin itself? Would that be what you would think?
Yeah, that's a huge part of it. And plus, then sugars are there's a whole glycation thing as well. Because I'm very carnivore based, not full, but like very not into vegetables.
I didn't know that.
After having, been through like being a full vegan at some point. Um, but oh yeah, but however, I will take within a supplement, like just like I'll have some chlorophyll drops, and I do to have the red algae as a supplement, and then we have our sea buckthorn, which we have in a lot of our skincare products. So I'll take that, by little teaspoons and stuff. So it depends how strict you are, but there are some options there.
Cool. One more just lifestyle question with you and your own experience. I didn't know that you had kind of drifted on one side or the other, and we're certainly not yelling at vegans out there who want to do whatever they want to
No,
do. It's
no.
great. Yeah, yeah, we love that. So what I notice as a pattern for most women who have been vegan, vegetarian for a long time is they'll kind of dabble and they might have a little bit of chicken or a little bit of fish, but they're really averse to red meat. And then after a while, they'll try it, and then they'll have a little more, and then all they want is like steak all the time. They turn into red meat savages. Can you relate to that?
Yes.
That's so
Sorry, make me
funny.
laugh. It's just because that's so funny. I totally relate. I relate so much. I'm laughing. Yeah, I did. Well, I started the vegan thing like back in 1992, and I went for like over a decade. So it's very, and I feel like I can see, I can see the issues of that now. And that came up when I was doing my dental book, and mainly the oxalates, the phytic acids, the bone health is so huge. It's the anti-nutrients that are so huge. So then, yes, then I'm writing the dental book. I'm birthing, I mean, I'd already birthed, but those breastfeeding birthing years also just make you see that I feel like, yeah, it depends on what stage you to go into the vegan thing. So I did do it hardcore for so long. I feel like it helped me it kept me a part of that health movement and dialogue. And it was very exciting at the time because there was a lot of foods that we didn't know about in the 90s, and making cashew milk in 1992 was pretty exciting, but
Yeah.
until it wasn't. And then I think just that, our bodies were eating so many oxalates that, and we all think the vegetables are just so innocent, right? So then, yes, it did go to like the chicken broths, the fish. Then we get the steak moment. And I was like, oh, and what was my favorite food as a kid? A steak. So it's been that way. And pretty much, yeah, I've got a freezer steak. I like
Amazing.
steak every day.
That's amazing. Well, thank you for sharing that. Again, I had no idea any of that. Your journey sounds very similar to the author of the book, The Vegetarian Myth, Leah Keith. We've had
Oh
on the show a
yeah,
few times, and
yeah,
she
oh
was
yeah, yeah,
really hardcore vegan
yeah.
vegetarian and did a lot of did some permanent damage. So, yeah, very, very interesting. Thank you for that diversion and sharing that. And that is a perfect
Oh,
segue into oral health. So,
yes.
like I said, somebody can go back and listen to our original episode where you told a little bit more of your personal story. But let's talk about your own personal story as it pertains to dental care and things that you've learned along the journey that have made you, I don't know if it's the right way to say, like maybe like suspicious of kind of common, normal, like dental care.
Yeah, well, it was in the 90s that I did start to formulate, and that's when I just started to really, yeah, even unpack like why are we going to the doctor? Or like not saying we don't have to, but like why and what are they doing? Having seen really some of their ineffectiveness as a kid and just being like, what is this dentist thing that I've never, like what are they doing? What are they not doing? Because I was seeing that there was a lot of applications from the medical world that were creating toxicity. So again, like the moment I started formulating was also the same time when I was it's like I wanted to formulate for beauty because I also felt like it did provide health solutions. And it was sort of that unity of health and beauty that I found just so cool. It was like a form and function coming together. So I felt like there was a lot you could read on the body, but in the 90s, there wasn't a lot for the teeth. And, being a young entrepreneur, you're off your parents' dental plan, kind of neglecting going to the dent. You don't want to go, but going. And then luckily, I had this good hygienist who was like, you've got the beginning of a cavity, but you can like go home, make a thing with all that stuff you make, and we'll see if it changes. And I was like, it can change. Like that was revelation, right? Just because you don't grow up thinking your teeth are like alive and can evolve, but really they're bone. So we can, you know, work to strengthen our bones. And really, a cavity is an infection in the mouth. And so we can heal infections if it's given what it's needed. So that was really neat. And that's when I made what is now known as the Happy Gum Drops. And I really just helped to, my gums needed help. A lot of things needed help, but I did apply it to that area. And then the cavity, we took x-ray and it had ceased. So you can get cavities that are no longer like spongy and growing kind of thing. So that was really cool. And then, yeah, and then I just, for the next 10 years, just did a lot of dental research and was really wanting to bring it all together. And I used to teach like little dental workshops and stuff. And then I thought, I've got to write a book. So I just self-published a book that later is now Holistic Dental Care that did get published, which was kind of fun because everybody's like, if you want to be published, don't publish your own book. And all I thought was, I don't really care. I just want to get it together in a information packet. And now it's available in 5 languages. And it's really coming, like, I'm not a dentist, but it's really coming from like the perspective of like, I have teeth and I wanted to know more about them. And I think you might want it too, because I found that it's like the way I grew up, it was just like, you didn't know too much about your teeth, except you just went to the dentist and then like, you kind of got good news, bad news, and that was kind of it. But we didn't know what to do at home every day or like what's making them strong or not. And then what's really cool about all the ingredients that we work with is that I work a lot with the essential oils, which are the pure, authentic distillates of the plants, which we've been distilling for thousands of years. And the oils and the plants that have been used cross-culturally for thousands of years for oral care are so amazing. And now, in the last decade, we're sort of finding out more why, because we're looking at them under the microscope, under, what are they doing in a petri dish to strep and different viruses. And so things that we know that things like clove and cinnamon and tea tree and a lot of those classic oral care botanicals and myrrh and mastic and frankincense, they are quorum sensing inhibitors, which simply means it's QSI for short, which means they inhibit the communication of the pathogens, which prevents them from grouping, ganging up, and forming biofilms. So the essential oils are like these stealth agents that are also something called bacteriostatic. So they're able to work with the friendly bacteria, but clean up the pathogens, which is literally like the substances that we so need on this planet right now, where it's not just an antibiotic that's just killing everything in its path, but it's like selectively like cleaning up the pathogens that we don't want. You know what I mean? So it's like it's just so good. Plus, then they have property like every drop in of oil, if it's real, it has hundreds of phytochemicals. And so some of them are going to be anti-inflammatory, or they're vulnaries, which is an older word for meaning it speeds up healing of the tissue. Not to mention, like, of course, peppermint's good for breath, but the peppermint you're getting in the drugstore toothpaste is an isolate. It's a menthol isolate, and it's minty fresh, but it has none of that phytochemistry that's helping. And then their studies even show like peppermint helps with radiation, so it's like helping if you have to go get x-rays. So they're very protective of the tissues. They're very microbiome friendly, yet still having that edge where they can, get those pathogens in line, which I just think there's no better substance. So it even helped more of like this thing in the 90s, which we didn't even know there was a microbiome in the 90s, but just having these creations, stand their ground as we learn more and more science, and just going, oh, well, no wonder they work. Really, they're not a miracle, even though they kind of feel like, they're because they'll stop your gums from bleeding and help to bring gum pockets back down and all that stuff that we just want to take care of on a daily basis so that we don't end up with long and costly dental appointments.